Hey, you're watching Dujuan Thomas Live, the live show that's pre-recorded. Make sure you stay tuned. We got a great episode for you today. Hey, it's Dujuan Thomas here, and I'm your host, and welcome back to the show. I'm glad to be back in the studio bringing y'all some more episodes. But before we start, I just got to tell you, me and my better half, we left the country yet again. We took an amazing cruise down to the Bahamas, and let me tell you, it was an amazing trip. There should be some photos popping up, but it's so different getting out of just the United States or getting out of Paducah in general and just being able to see the world. Like, that's why I always like to encourage people, get out and travel, see the world. And one thing about the Bahamas, it was a beautiful island. Like, we stopped at Coco Cay because I take Royal Caribbean. That's my cruise line. I like to go with them. We stopped at Coco Cay, and it wasn't a perfect day in Coco Cay, but it was a rainy day, and that's their motto, perfect day in Coco Cay. But it was amazing nonetheless. The water, so nice, blue, like a bluish green. And then down to the Bahamas, we went to Nassau, and I always mispronounce it, but we went down to the capital of the Bahamas, and it was nice. And one thing about us, we like to get out of the touristy areas and like explore and see the real place. And I was kind of, surprised at some of the buildings, like it was run down in some areas, but the people, nonetheless, they were amazing. I even stopped and interviewed one of the residents there just to ask about the country, like what it's like living there. But yeah, you can always check out those videos. I do put out my vlogs, so you can go to my YouTube channel, Dujuan Thomas, and check it out. I'm gonna put those vlogs up soon. And then also, I gotta give a shout out because recently, I've been doing a lot in the community, and I was on a local podcast, the Toddcast podcast, and that's with two D's in Todd and in Pod. And I just got to shout him out for bringing me on, because one thing about me, whenever I started rising up and, doing more things and getting notoriety or whatever you would call it, I always made a vow that I would always be available for my community, because growing up, I got a lot of no's. And I'm surprised even today I still get no's from people that have made it. And I'm like, wow, you kind of forget where you come from. But I've always made that vow to never forget where I come from. So everybody out there, if you have a podcast, if you have a show and you want me on it, I'm there for you. And moving on, we're talking about the Bahamas. I have a very special guest that's from a not too far away island of Jamaica. So I want to welcome Danette Mahabeer-Turner. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, awesome to have you. Now, me and Danette have known each other for a little less than a year, but it's felt like years, honestly. And you're super active in the community. You have an amazing background. So I'll leave it up to you to introduce yourself to those that may not know you yet.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I was born and raised in Jamaica, grew up in a single parent home, 5 siblings. My mother was, single parent, sole breadwinner of the family. I migrated to the United States in my early 20s, left my family back home. And, I was always in music. Music has been my background, and hospitality. Migrated from Jamaica to New Jersey, moved to Nashville, Tennessee about 8 years ago, and, kind of created some waves there. And of course, moved to Paducah about less than a year ago to be with my now husband, Matt.
Yeah, and Matt Turner, if y'all don't know, that's Loopy Larry's, man, best sandwiches in town. And it's awesome that you're with him. Y'all make an awesome couple, and we've hung out, played game nights and done things, and awesome people. So that's why I couldn't wait to bring you on the show. And it actually skipped my mind. Like, out of all the people I could have had on here, I'm like, Danette said, why don't you come on my show? Because we're going to get into what she got going on. But I'm like, yeah, let me bring on Danette. So we're here today. And, your title, you went by serial entrepreneur. So I guess just dive into that. What is a serial entrepreneur?
So for me, I have multiple successful businesses, and business ventures. So for me, I'm always focused on not just having one source of income. I believe in the 7 income sources and different things like that. So as a serial entrepreneur, like I have businesses in Nashville that I'm bringing here slowly as well. I'm a certified life coach, and I do that nationally. I'm a national wedding officiant, author of a book called Leave Alive. Have a photography and videography business as well that's based in Nashville, Tennessee since 2018. I just do a lot of different things, but they correlate. And so I do not think limits. So that's the word serial entrepreneur.
Definitely. And have you always had that ambition from a young age, or did it start recently? Like, when did you realize, like, I want to do all of these things?
Well, ever since I was, a kid, I had big dreams. And I've always stand with the philosophy that if I dream and it doesn't scare me, then it's not big enough.
Wow.
So I love to dream big. And I'll give you an example. I was 9 years old when my grand aunt passed away, and all my, cousins came from America. Never been to America, just watch America on TV, right? Movies. And so they spent about 2 weeks after the funeral and everything. That's my first time having Pop-Tarts.
Wow.
Like, all these American candies and different desserts. And I'm like, we don't have these in Jamaica.
Wow.
So, I love the accent, just love it. Their clothes look a little different and all that, the fashion. And so when it was time for them to come back, I remember crying. I wanted to go back with them.
Wow.
And so ever since a tender age of 11 years old, my eyes been set on America.
Yeah.
I was like, that's where I want to be.
Right.
And here I am. Yeah. So you dream big and you work toward accomplishing those goals.
Definitely.
And, it's scary when you think about it at 11 years old, even at 18 years old, you're like, oh, I want to be in America. How am I going to get there?
Yeah.
But it's a big dream that can be accomplished.
Yeah. And I guess branching off to that, how did you end up coming to America?
Well, so I was traveling doing music.
Yeah.
I was opening up for John Legend, Mary J. Blige, Michael Bolton, doing huge shows, in Canada, all over America. So, music kind of where it began. I started coming to the United States and traveling state by state, doing tours and different things like that.
Yeah.
And eventually, we'll talk about that as well, where, I got married and, end up, being a domestic violence survivor, writing a book about that as well. So, of course, that's how I ended up here.
Definitely. And so, and we'll start with this too, because one thing that you got coming up, that's happening now, season 2 of the Voice Thoughts podcast and talk show. Let's dive into that. What inspired you to even start your podcast?
About 5 years ago, the name came to me. I've always been with a background of radio and TV and always been a public speaker.
Yeah.
So I'm always a voice. I always want to be a voice for the voiceless. And so I decided to create Voice Thoughts, where we vocalize those thoughts and surrounded by society-based topics. So anything that can happen in society, we can discuss it, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's HIV, whether it's, breast cancer, all these topics that postpartum depression, for example, they're not talked about a lot.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to create a forum where those topics can be explored.
Yeah.
And not just fit inside a little box, but we want to be able to discuss those things and talk about them the way they should.
Definitely. And we just had a major kickoff for season 2. There should be a picture up about that. And one thing about Danette, like, you just now got to Paducah, recently, but she was able to bring so many different people together from the community, all in one building. It's at the
Inland Waterways Museum.
Inland Waterways Museum. And that was an amazing event, just having the community together to network, and we're going to talk about networking here in a few, but it's amazing. So make sure y'all check out the Voice Thoughts podcast, and you can find it on YouTube, Spotify, every online. Just Google it, it'll pop up. But you talked about it shortly, but your acting career and your acting background, and then we're going to get into music as well. So we crossed paths, actually, it was last year sometime. And I was in Nashville with my better half, and we were going there because we got picked up for an MTV commercial. Well, it was actually on MTV with Steven Sanchez, his music video for the VMA Awards. And we're leaving the parking garage, and I heard someone say, Dujuan. And I'm like, I'm getting spotted in Nashville. I was feeling good about myself for a little bit there. And then I look over, I'm like, is that Matt? It was Matt from Paducah, Loopy Larry's. I'm like, what? And so we went over there and talked, and Danette was there, and he was there, and a friend of theirs, and they were also going to be in that VMA performance. And I'm like, small world, it's crazy. And in my previous episode, I talked about the acting experience and gave y'all some advice on acting. So make sure y'all check out the last episode or the previous episodes, and you can find that out. But that was amazing seeing you there. So what even got you started in acting? Because I know you've done a lot of cool stuff.
So I started acting, back in Jamaica. I used to do major commercials there. Again, singing has brought me into, acting where, it kind of goes hand in hand. I actually started doing more acting in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
And, collaborated with some major brands for that as a brand ambassador, and then getting into, movies, commercials, short films, and, you name it, I've done it.
Yeah, definitely. And so what's a project, if you could look back, what is one of your most, favorite, or what was something you just had fun doing, or a major one? Tell us about it.
Oh, well, some of them were long nights and overnights. We could talk about those. But I think, for me, in every single setting that I've been in as an actress is the networking, is the connecting.
Right.
Like, you walk away knowing somebody that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Making those networking connections were has always been important for me. But I've had the honor of, being on a commercial with Visa credit card. I've done ESPN college football commercial, the MTV, M&M's for the VMAs award. Just to name a few. One of my favorite one was with a nonprofit called Nurture the Next. Basically, it was a rebranding, and my daughter and I were actually product or recipients from that program. Moved to Nashville as a single parent, domestic violence victim at the time, and so that program was an home-based visiting program where they helped you to raise healthy families. So at first it was called Prevent Child Abuse Tennessee, which is like PCAT. So they were, wanting to rebrand, because when people hear Prevent Child Abuse Tennessee, they think, oh, you think I'm abusing my child. I became a parent leader with them and being part of the board for Nurture the Next when they changed the name. So they're like, okay, we're changing the name from PCAT to Nurture the Next because we want people to know we're nurturing the next generation. Would you and your daughter be the face of that rebranding commercial? So if you watch that on YouTube, I mean, I'm the face talking about my story and how they've helped me to become resilient. So that's a major speaking role for me. I mean, I love the Visa credit card commercial because, like, oh, it's Visa credit card, it's ESPN college football, it's M&M's, or it's this, that movie. I've been in 2 major movies with Tanya Tucker and Rita Moreno, 2 Christmas movies as well in Nashville, all filmed in Nashville.
And that's what I was trying to tell people last time. Like, there's so many acting opportunities in our area. Nashville's a major hub. Like, they're blowing up with acting gigs. And like I told you, go to those Facebook pages, look up Tennessee casting. Like, you could do it too. If you really want to be an actor, go out there and do it. And then one last question, when we're in the acting realm, what is a lesson that you've learned while being in the industry, and this could be for music or for acting, that you wish you would have known before, when you first started?
A lot of these commercials and like, films and movies, they'll get you to sign a paper where you're signing over your rights. You're basically signing over what's called a buyout. So instead of getting those royalties ongoing every time that movie plays or every time that commercial is aired, you basically sign a waiver. Like, I'll take this lump sum of whether it's $2,000 just to be on, be here for 5 hours. But in reality, you just sign away, the rights to your residual income. And a lot of that is going on. And a lot of people are just doing like, I want to be in a Visa commercial, or, hey, I want to be on TV. So I'll just sign this document. And so a lot of, I would recommend to people who are wanting to get a career in acting to become like, a SAG member and stuff like that. But, if you're just trying to do it like a hobby, then definitely not worth it, because again, SAG, you want to be in New York, California, maybe Atlanta. So
definitely. And then we've touched on it a little bit. I should have probably put this one first, but your music career. So you started in Jamaica.
Absolutely.
So what even got you started with music? Like, what was that process like?
So when I graduated with my first degree in hospitality, entertainment, and tourism management, I was doing that in Ocho Rios. I then moved further away from home, which is like 5 hours away from the South, where I was born and raised, to Montego Bay, working for Sandoz Resorts and Spa, Seacrest Resort and Spa. And I was always working in an entertainment department. So I was the entertainment supervisor. We did all the productions, from the daytime activities to the nighttime production shows. And so, we had talent shows, we had all these different musicals and stuff that we've created for the guests to be a part of and be entertained while they're on vacation. So I've always been singing, dancing, acting, modeling, all combination. And so eventually I was like, I want to start a musical career. And I just decided to quit my job and straight into music I went.
And you traveled, so you said Canada? And
yes, I've performed in Cayman Islands, Antigua, Canada.
And opened for, you said John Legend?
Yes, so in 2015, we Jamaica hosted the Jazz and Blues Festival. And I was the opening act for John Legend. I've done opening acts for Michael Bolton and Mary J. Blige. Major shows again, so music's been playing in all countries. I mean, think about UK, like in Africa, like my music, reggae music is universal. So
definitely. Well, that's amazing. That's what I said. She's done everything. So that's pretty amazing right there. And moving on, you're an author. You're a published author. So tell us about your book. I know you brought it with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about your book.
Put it up.
All right.
So this is my book, Leave Alive, subtitled Goodbye Domestic Violence. I consider myself a domestic violence advocate, and I'm now a domestic violence survivor.
Yeah.
You know, and so on the cover of this book, you'll see a silhouette. That's actually me.
Wow.
And so I left when I was 7 months pregnant from an abusive marriage. And, you know, I mean, there were a lot of questions that I asked myself, you know, where am I going to go? How am I going to start over from ground zero?
Yeah.
And now I'm a mother. You know, I'm in a country where all my family is back home. So it was a very scary path, but I wrote this book, and I specifically and purposefully used this picture on the book because I want people to know, like, you know, that was the most vulnerable spot a woman could ever be in.
Right.
And for me, you know, it's like walking away from a marriage in a country, a foreign country, and 7 months pregnant. It's scary.
Definitely.
But here I am today to tell that story.
Definitely. You do have a story, and then that kind of branches off into your life coaching. Did that kind of, you know, branch you into that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
What is it like, or what does being a life coach even entail for those that may not know?
You know, so I tell people a life coach is there to be an accountability partner, you know, help you to guide you on that path towards your goals and your vision. Sometimes we have the vision, we have the goal, but we don't have the objectives to get to that goal and make it a reality. So I'm basically an accountability partner, setting goals with you, setting objectives to meet those goals, and setting deadlines, and just like helping you find the resources that you need as well. So I do personal coaching, business coaching, domestic violence coaching, teams, you know, team building, executive coaching as well, just to name a few.
Definitely. And where can people reach out to you about that if, say, they wanted you to be their life coach?
Absolutely. So if you go to Google and just type Danette Mahabeer Life Coach, it'll pop up. I have a Google page, all 5-star reviews, so they speak for themselves.
Yes, well, that's all. And so, what is some advice that anyone out there watching could take and apply to their daily lives? Like just some good advice that they could take home with them.
One of the best advice is trust the process.
Right.
You know, sometimes it's hard to see the end result when you start something, and sometimes you'll hit those snags, and it's easy for us to want to just say, hey, you know, I had this vision, I'm trying it, it's not really working out, let me just shelf it, right? But trusting that process and taking those steps and being patient with yourself and giving yourself grace, you know, it's all part of the process. And, you know, once you stay disciplined, you stay focused, you'll reach there, but you cannot typically see the end result when you start with a vision. But again, just trusting that process, everything that's in between comes with the process.
Right.
And just embracing that, you know.
Definitely. That's some good stuff right there, man.
Well, thank you.
And then you've been heavily involved in the community ever since you've been here. And even before you got here,
Absolutely.
I know about your work in Nashville. So where was that starting point for you to say, like, I want to get involved in the community? Like,
so that began for me in Nashville. You know, again, I moved to Nashville in the most vulnerable situation, starting from ground zero, had no car, no job, you know, had a little baby. I'm a single mom, going through a divorce, you know, you name it. And so the community was what helped me, the village, you know, we use the word the village, and I think we underestimate the village. And so for me, the village was there for me. You know, I was, again, recipient from Nurture the Next as one I mean, I remember myself going to food banks, you know, like, I didn't have any pride at that point, because like, hey, I gotta, you know, I'm down here, I gotta feed my baby, I gotta take care of me and my baby. And so having been a recipient of those nonprofit organizations and domestic violence advocacy centers that provided me with the resources and the mentorship that I needed to be resilient in who I am today, that is dear to my heart. So I want to make sure that I'm giving back to the community now that I'm in a better place.
Definitely. That's awesome. And now that you're in Paducah, what has kept you eager to be involved in our community?
Yeah. So, you know, I moved to Paducah. I love the fact that it's a smaller community, but it's very intimate. Everybody knows everybody. You know, I love the diversity. I love the networking opportunities. But again, with me moving from Nashville, I want to make sure that I am continuing to give back to the community. So I am currently a board member on probably 6 different boards, you know, and
Yeah.
just to name a few, you know, the diversity board, Paducah Diversity Advocacy Board, you know, I'm on the Lotus board, and each of these boards, the Family Service Society, they hold a special place in my heart because I can tell stories from each of them that I remember being a part of, and you know, I'm very passionate about that.
And being from out of Paducah, what is something, you know, now that you're here, that you could see Paducah could improve on, like in community, and how, you know, what is something that you see we can improve on?
I think we have, I mean, I've heard stories and I've witnessed it in the less than a year that I've been here full time, where networking and, you know, diversity and inclusivity is happening. And I've heard from people who've been here, you know, like, hey, you know, we've never seen this in Paducah. And even though we're seeing it now, I feel like we still have some ways to go where that is concerned. I love seeing the networking opportunities. I would love to see more of those and available resources, again, like for small business owners and, you know, entrepreneurs that have those ideas, like going into different, you know, classes or resources that are out there for them and their businesses.
Definitely. And one thing that me and Danette have really been doing recently is, like, I've been seeing her everywhere, but at the networking sessions that's been going on in Paducah, like at the House of Ross, they meet there every Monday. At the studio, they've been meeting there every 4th Sunday. And that's a new place in Paducah. It's a hub for creativity. And then also Wednesday morning coffee hour. That's at Sprocket. Like, so I've been enjoying seeing the community just come together.
Absolutely.
And, you know, even with you, you know, you've been playing a part by connecting people with different people, like, because we always get stuck in like a box of, you know, we try to stick with who we know and whatnot. And we were talking.
What's comfortable.
Yeah, and we were talking before the show started, like, we just got to get out of that box and just network with people you never talked to before, because you never know what you can get out of those connections. And before we go, where can people find, like, they can just Google you, Danette Mahabeer-Turner. So if you Google her, you can find all her stuff online, and there should be a little title below, Facebook, everywhere, and just look her up and you can find all the stuff she's got going on. But before we go, we're going to hear a special song from Danette, so we're going to give it up to her. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Can't find another like you. No, like you there is none. I am coming home to you. Oh baby, I'm coming back home. I am coming back home to you. I'm coming back home, baby. I miss making you breakfast, having you beside me watching TV. All the things we would do, just you and me. I miss your tender touch, your arms wrapped around me, and your kisses too. How did we let it slip away? Think about the things we've been through. You told me I was the number one in your life. Now look at us now, please explain how we end up on the opposite side. I'm tired of being alone, so I'm coming back. Oh, baby, I am coming back home to you. Oh, baby, I'm coming back home. I am coming back home to you. I'm coming back home. Let me tell you the truth. See, so from your leave, tell us to make gone crazy. It hurt when me hear about you and Stacy. Pride and jealousy make me leave. Now I'm me alone left to face it. Baby, me miss you, honestly, me not tell no lie. The most I love me have for you, money cannot buy. Getting back together is no if nor maybe. Take back my rightful place as first lady. I'm tired of being alone, so I'm coming back home. Baby, I am coming back home to you. I'm coming back home.
All right, so we want to thank Danette so much for that awesome song, I'm Coming Back Home to You. You can find her on YouTube, Facebook, Google her. Awesome guest. So grateful to have her on here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Dujuan.
Yes,
all the
ma'am.
best with your show in the future.
Thank you so much.